So I think they felt as a hangover from the pandemic, people were very insular. So people tended to come in, they did their own work. Sometimes they'd be at home, sometimes they'd be in the office, and they didn't really interact that much. And they felt that for them to be successful in what they wanted to do, they needed to increase the number of interactions per day, and that was very much part of the brief. So neurodiversity played a key role in that, and we actually used the tech stack which our creative director developed to enable AI to map out different days and the number of interactions each employee would have during that day. So we then were able to run through different designs and different test fits that we did at the pitch stage through that AI platform to then work out exactly how that affected the number of interactions we were doing. And that was quite a key part of our pitch, which effectively went on to win us the project.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. Head of Furniture at AIS. What a great guest. Appreciate you carving out your time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome. Yeah. And so I guess, first of all, Head of Furniture at AIS, you were just saying when I cut into you and said, right, I want this on the podcast. You're saying like how you got into it, which is really interesting stuff. So carry on. So I've worked in furniture since 2000. Like I said, 24 years, which is quite scary when I think about it. But I moved, studied product design at university and focused on furniture in the final year. So I was designing my own furniture, and then I moved into working for a company focusing on hospitality. So we were designing a lot of banquet seating, bespoke joinery installations for restaurants, bars, nightclubs, that sort of thing. So I did that for a few years. And then I got chatting to a furniture maker in the New Forest, and they were making really high-end bespoke furniture items. But it was quite a young company. Everyone there, including the owner, was in their 20s. And I think they really wanted to push forward a little bit. So they were using a lot of traditional methods, and a lot of the designs were they're manifesting organically. So they were starting to make something, and then they'd say, let's try this or let's do that. And it was a really cool way of working, but what they really wanted to do was try and streamline it a little bit to reduce material waste and that sort of thing. So they brought me in to actually set up a design office within the workshop where I tried to take their concepts from their heads and put it into CAD models, create material optimization schedules, that sort of thing. So really to try and make them a little bit more sustainable in the sense that there's a lot less waste, but also it was quite a challenge because they didn't want me to reduce their creativity. So it was an interesting role. And we did some really cool things for various people, like very strange things. So we designed a dining table for quite a wealthy client that lived locally. I think they paid about 50k for this table. It took about a month to make. And the next week we were making a bespoke handrail for a staircase for Robert Smith from The Cure, like people like that. So we did loads of crazy stuff. But at the time I'd moved to London, so I was actually commuting on a Monday and staying at the workshop till Wednesday and then going back to London. And it got a bit unsustainable, so I decided to try and work in London, at which point I moved to a company called OMK, which is it was founded in the 60s by a designer called Rodney Kinsman, who's quite a prolific industrial designer. So I worked with him as his design assistant, and I stayed there up until 2.5 years ago when I moved to AIS. So at OMK we were doing completely the other end of the spectrum. It was mass-produced industrial seating for airports and transport terminals. So really different production techniques, a lot of repetition. So we were designing for optimization. If you can shave a gram of aluminium off a component when you're making 10,000 of them, it adds up. So it was that type of work. It was creative, but creative in a different way, and the challenges were different. And during my time there, I kind of worked my way up to MD's position, was running the company. But I fancied a new challenge, so spoke to Jerry at AIS, and he wanted to expand the furniture team, so he brought me over to run it, and that's kind of my introduction to D&B. So yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
It's been 2.5 years. It's like you have got the gist.
yeah I think I've got there now.
What does Head of Furniture at AIS look like as a role?
So the first task I had was to build a team. So we went from a team of 2, we're now a team of 5. And my day-to-day really is overseeing that team, helping with pitching for new work, but also then on the project side, once we're awarded it, applying a bit of my knowledge to make that process a little bit more fluid, I guess. So a good example would be we're doing a project for a client at the moment where there's a lot of bespoke joinery elements which have been moved to the furniture package. So I'm working with one of our suppliers to try and modify their product to fit in with our partition system and things like that. So I guess that's knowledge comes from my background as a designer. So it's applying that knowledge to the D&B market, which is, I guess, is slightly different to a typical head of furniture who may have come through a consultant's role, and they very much know the market, they know the supply chain, but it's quite transactional. It's let's buy that product and sell it to the client. So we try and add a little bit more of a bespoke element to our packages, which is working really well. We're securing quite a lot of work. We've seen year-on-year growth the last 2 years. Next year is already looking to be quite a big year for us. So yeah, it's all been good.
Oh, exciting. Oh, very good. I know some of the team, but deal less with the furniture side. But no, it's congratulations. Yeah. It's a busy industry to be in right now, especially with the way offices are going and furniture playing such a huge part instead of partitions and walls, but using furniture as kind of dividing, zoning, creating neighbourhoods. I mean, that's a huge package to be looking after. Yeah,
it is. And I think Jerry saw that shift in the market, and that's why he wanted to build the furniture team within AIS, because I think if you go back 10 years, the furniture package may have been, say, 10% of the overall project value. It's now pushing 20-25%. And I think clients want to be procuring more sustainably. They want to be procuring more flexibly as well. And I think when they're looking at especially we work a lot with startups, fintech companies, that sort of thing. If they look at their roadmap for the next 10 years, they're not going to stay put for very long. So they don't want to be spending money and then just shelving the furniture and spending it again in 2 years' time. They're looking to buy furniture they can take with them on that journey. And so I think that's really a lot of the growth is because of that. As you say, they're replacing things like partitions for furniture because they can, not only when they move space, but they can reconfigure their space as their teams grow and the needs change. So
no, it's a lot more flexible for sure. An early project you dealt with. Are you going to talk about one outside of D&B? Or are you going to bring an early project from D&B?
I mean, I could talk about my projects prior to D&B, but they were big airport projects. They're not the most exciting. I suppose what they did offer me in terms of my sort of growth within my career was exposure to global markets. So we were working across the globe, projects in Saudi Arabia, Colombia, Singapore, like you name it. We worked on those projects, and I think it helped me to break down the barriers, like the actual physical barriers. I think a lot of people, when they think of furniture, if I said to a furniture consultant that's very much used to working in the UK, could you do a project in Europe? They'd be a bit hesitant. But actually, my experience working on airports broke that down, and it's the same. Instead of shipping from London to Birmingham, you're shipping from wherever to wherever. It's the same thing. So that experience was really good. But yeah, my first project in D&B was actually quite a good project. I think I'm allowed to say the client's name. It was a project for Disney in Manchester.
Oh, amazing.
So
quite a good name.
very much thrown in at the deep end. It was in a new office space they took out. I was working with our international team who were servicing that client, but they wanted to do this project in Manchester. So so I worked with them to do all the furniture specification, procurement, installation, and I really wanted to do a project on my own. I didn't want to use anyone that was in the team that I inherited, purely because I wanted to learn, and it was quite a journey to go on. But the end result was great. It was really, really good fun.
It's good for you. Yeah. And what did that look like in terms of doing it on your own? Like, you just took it right from one end to the other, literally solely with you.
Yeah.
sat on your desk?
Well, with our design team, obviously. So there's so much crossover between the furniture team and the design team. The way we work at AIS is we have what we call a design guild, which anyone in a creative role in the business automatically sits within that design guild. So we really encourage that collaboration between furniture as an example, but it could even be technical design and concept design. But we once every 2 weeks we meet up and we have sessions and we share presentations and try and share learnings and experiences within the team. So we do have quite a close relationship, and that really helped with the project. So the designer Kasia, I worked with her. She obviously came up with the look and feel. She's very good with colour, so there's a lot of colour in the project, which was perfect for that client. So when it came to fabrics and material selections, I worked very closely with her. But the first step for me was to establish which suppliers we were going to use, that fitted the brief. Obviously coming from a very different part of the furniture industry into here, I was aware of most of the suppliers, but I didn't have that relationship that a lot of people in the industry have after years of working in that sort of way. I spent 2 weeks just getting out to showrooms, introducing myself, making those connections with the people in the supply chain, and also looking at the products as well to try and have a very quick crash course on what was there in the market. So I specified all the furniture, and then alongside Kasia we sort of refined it in terms of finishes, and then I did all the procurement, managed the logistics and all the site install, and all the way through to snagging. So it was quite a long process, but it was good. Yeah.
And good for you. Was the thinking of the whole colour thing, especially with Disney, being quite flamboyant and exciting and all the rest of what Disney stand for. Was that very different to what you'd seen before?
Airports are pretty monochromatic. I mean, they've changed a lot in the last few years. And I think I was there when they were making that shift into more of a kind of less functional space and more of a sort of destination space. But so colour was starting to come in, but not in the same way that a workplace project, especially for a client like that, would use it. It was quite a key part of that whole project, was just tying all that in, making sure it didn't just look like lots of individual areas. It had to be cohesive as a whole space. So it's each meeting room had quite a strong colour, but the colours all worked in harmony with each other. So it was interesting.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Hindsight's a beautiful thing. So if you were looking back at that project and doing it again today, what would you do different?
Oh, it's an interesting question. It's hard to answer that, actually. I think generally it went pretty well, so I don't think there's much I would change. I think we would. What was interesting, what was one of the biggest learnings, I remember, was I was on site and the office was up 2 or 3 floors up, big glass windows, and you could see the street below. It was a significant amount of furniture that was procured in terms of monetary value, but in my head I hadn't quite clocked what that would look like in size and volume. And I remember seeing all these trucks pulling up outside, and I was like, okay, one of those must be ours. And then I realised actually they're all ours. So that was that was the biggest shock on the thing for me, just the sheer volume of like packaging and the things that were coming up as well. It kind of, I guess one of the sort of big learnings I took from that was there are different ways you could do it. For example, you could task chairs, you can procure them and ask them not to be boxed. They can turn up in their cellophane. There's pluses and minuses for having them boxed. They stack better in a truck, but you end up with a lot of cardboard waste which you have to get rid of. Little things like that. I suppose over the years since that project, I've just refined the kind of delivery side of things, even though I'm less involved with that now. That is one of the only projects I've done end to end. The way we work is we have different people in the team to take care of different parts of the process. So we very much have a front-end specification team, which do stay on the project all the way through to the end. But we now have a dedicated project management team which step in and deal with the logistics and all the site work. So I think one thing I probably would have liked to have more awareness on was just that sheer volume of products and the waste that comes off it from the packaging.
That's a good, really random point, to be fair. Yeah. I've spoken before with someone from like a delivery side, and just the sheer amount of This was actually more construction, so it was actually taking stuff out as well. It's literally that the sheer amount of volume of waste or rubble or whatever, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then as stuff comes in, like what you're saying, it's sort of quite unseen because we talk about sustainability and it's quite a design-led conversation for obvious reasons, but then actually to take that through to delivering on site and what that looks like and actually have a visual representation of that, I can imagine it's quite a shock. It was a little bit. It's fine. I mean, luckily we had a really good installation team that, well, in hindsight, obviously a lot more experienced than I was with that. So I don't think they were shocked by what turned up. So that it was all within what they were expecting, but it was quite it's quite a visual shock to me. It's quite a nice first lesson to have, though. To be honest, it could have been a lot worse.
100%.
It's quite a gentle one.
Yeah.
So no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Good. And then you've taken that on. Obviously, you've moved on to projects. What's happening now, or just recently happened, or about to happen? That's big that we need to know about.
Well, there's 2 big projects we're working on at the moment, but I'm not really meant to say who they're for, so we're under NDA. But so I won't talk about those. But one of the ones we have secured this year, which is for delivery next year, is a really exciting project, 100,000 square foot project in Canary Wharf. Really, really exciting client, really exciting design. So that. Really looking forward to getting, well, we're already really stuck into it. We're kind of at the point now we're about to start procurement, but really looking forward to seeing that project come to life, and that's been a big win for AIS. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I think the biggest change in the projects over the last 12 months is that we've started working in Europe with our international team. So I've done quite a few interesting projects recently. I've just done one for Expedia in Amsterdam, and that was fun. Yeah.
And that's don't you?
We do. Yeah, we have a studio in Amsterdam. We have a studio in Malta. So Malta's quite a fun location as well. I was there last week actually. I've just come back. We've just finished a project for a client in Malta as well. So they've been quite fun projects to work on. Expedia obviously being quite a big household name. We were relocating some furniture from their office in Munich, bringing it in. We worked with MCM architects to actually come up with a design with new furniture sitting alongside their existing that tied in, and the result's really good actually. When you look through the office, you can't really tell which bits have come over and which bits are new, so it's very cohesive in that sense. But that was a fun project to work on. That's slightly different project structure to D&B. It was more detail and build, obviously, with MCM being there as the overall creative architects, but we did a lot of the detailed design within our studio in Amsterdam as well. So there's a lot of input from AIS creatively on that one, but that was good. And then in Malta we've just done an office for a company where the owner owns a nightclub in Cyprus, so he's all about the parties and entertaining. They've got a big party this week to celebrate the launch of their office, and also there's a gaming event in Malta which they've got a lot of clients at. So he really wanted to get the office ready for this party, and part of that they wanted to install a massive sound system which is actually permanent. So we designed a DJ booth inside, a DJ booth on the terrace, which all links together. The furniture's now it's quite light, so they wanted to make it flexible so they could clear the space out. So I was there last week positioning the furniture ready for this party which they're having tomorrow, which unfortunately I'm unable to go to because of other commitments. But so that was quite interesting. First time I've ever put a nightclub in an office, but
sounds wicked.
Yeah.
And everything's basically on wheels, I guess.
Not all on wheels, but it's all quite light and easily moved. I think they wanted to try and avoid that aesthetic with casters everywhere. So I think it's got very much a hospitality feel in the main entertaining space, which is quite fun to do. I think that's something we're seeing quite a lot more of in general across all our projects at the moment. There's a bit more of a move into sort of a mixed use space, which is fun, albeit not with a nightclub, but yeah.
But within reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have seen that thing like 9 to 5, but then there's this brand 5 to 9.
Right.
And basically, like from 5 p.m.
Yeah.
It flips.
Okay.
Into a, I don't know, more of an entertainment space, I suppose is the word for it. Till 9.
Yeah.
So it's like 9 to 5, and then it's got 9 to 5 to 9. It's really nice. It's really clever branding.
Nice
how
concept.
they managed to do it. Yeah. And then all the office, they've just like put a few pieces of furniture or curtains or whatever, and they just change the space up, and it becomes like more of a nightclub thing.
Well, why not? I mean, if you're trying to attract a young workforce, then that sort of thing really appeals, and it's something we're seeing a lot of the briefs we get now are, how can we attract and retain the workforce, basically. So you attract them with a nice space, but that space can't just be an office of old. It can't just be desks and all about working. You have to have that neurodiversity across all of the different furniture in particular, but also the spaces that are designed. So it's offering people different types of space to go and undertake different activities throughout the day. So you're already getting this quite versatile space with a lot of different work settings in it. But then I think more often than not now they're looking to push that beyond. So a lot of them focus on wellness. So the project we're doing at Canary Wharf next year, we're putting in a full gym. At one point it had a climbing wall in it. We're talking about putting a lap pool in there. They've got sauna, steam room, yoga space, like all of this nice stuff that people would typically leave the office to go and do, but they can do it in the office. And I think that's a key part of that retention piece that they're looking to build up. I think if you're a graduate now and you're looking for a job, a lot of your choice will be swayed by the workspace in particular.
What's available, yeah. Question on gyms, for example, or yoga or anything like that. I've heard like quite polarizing kind of feedback on that. So I'd love to know what you've heard, because I've heard it's just like a nice thing that takes up loads of space and no one actually wants it, because no one wants them their work colleagues to see them sweaty and hot, and let alone their boss, and it's just something that the CEO wants so he doesn't have to leave his office, and it's kind of like I've heard that, but then I've also heard that people, obviously, like you're saying, it means they don't have to leave, and they've got like a free membership, if you like, and it's a great perk. So really divisive, particularly on a gym. What's your?
I think there's levels of quality and effort that you can put into providing a space like that. I think if you just had a meeting room that sometimes they pull a curtain and throw a few yoga mats in there and that's the yoga space, that's obviously not that ideal, especially if you've got people working outside and on desks. But if you're actually making a good effort to create that space and doing it well, and you're actually providing facilities that are in line with some of the best gyms and wellness spaces, then I think that's a very different thing. This project in particular, it's like a whole suite, it's not, you can't see it from the workspaces. So you would go into there's changing rooms, there's all the facilities you get in quite a high-end health club in the changing rooms. So the hair dryers, hair straighteners, people that want to use that. Like I say, sauna, steam room. So you can go into that space, use the facilities, have a shower, get changed, and come back out. So I think that is a very different proposition to a gym propped in the corner of the office.
It's almost like a different space, but in the same building.
Yeah, and I think it shows a commitment from the employer. If they're going to, especially if you look at the rent per square foot in that office in particular, it's quite high. So if they're going to actually move some of that space and create a facility and use quite a chunk of the floor plate, then that shows a commitment to that facility, which I think is different to, let's say, someone having a multi-use space or just paying lip service to the fact that they can say, we've got a gym on site, and actually it's a treadmill in the corner or something. It's it's different. I
agree. Probably my polarized comments that I get, my question should be back. Well, to talk to me about the gym, what does it look like?
Exactly. And
then probably start to sort of like level it out. That's a fair comment. I'm glad you unpacked that. And you touched on neurodiversity like quite quickly and spoke about the different spaces that you're catering for that. That's a massive thing.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it, so therefore you must be hearing it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a buzzword.
Talk to me about that. Like how do you cater for that?
Well, I think the key thing is everyone reacts differently to spaces and furniture as well. So I think when we look at engaging in a workplace consultants role, which we often do, and with this project I keep mentioning, we did that in this instance as well. Mm-hmm. You look at the different types of work that are carried out during the day. There's very much work where you just do it on your own. There's work where you work collaboratively, and then there's a hybrid of the two, and it's working out what that company does, how the neighbourhoods are formed, what a typical day for a worker would look like. And I think to really drill into that, you need to understand the different types of job roles, but you also need to understand the different types of personalities that may work within those job roles. And we like to map out a typical day for each persona or each role, mm-hmm. And try and then cover off how we can better serve that with the space. Mm-hmm. So we did a project for Tide, the fintech company, last year.
They have Old Street.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the new office there. And that was really interesting. So when we were looking at pitching the project, they wanted to increase employee interaction during the day. So I think they felt as a hangover from the pandemic, people were very insular. So people tended to come in, they did their own work. Sometimes they'd be at home, sometimes they'd be in the office, and they didn't really interact that much. And they felt that for them to be successful in what they wanted to do, they needed to increase the number of interactions per day, and that was very much part of the brief. So Neurodiversity played a key role in that, and we actually used the tech stack which our creative director developed to enable AI to map out different days and the number of interactions each employee would have during that day. So we then were able to run through different designs and different test fits that we did at the pitch stage through that AI platform to then work out exactly how that affected the number of interactions we were doing. And that was quite a key part of our pitch, which effectively went on to win us the project. But so we created this thing which we called the social thread. So you walked into the office and it was like, what does the journey look like through the office, and how can we effectively steer that person into making more interactions? So we created lots of social nodes throughout the office as well. So it might be, I think a lot of people are doing this type of thing now, but it might be like a games station where people could sit there and play some board games, or we created a wall where you had noughts and crosses and different games on it. We also had different social nodes as well. So we had like book club or movie things. So it was just it enabled people to find a place where they pique an interest and they could stop and perhaps speak to somebody they might not have spoken to before and that sort of thing. So the model showed a big increase in interaction, and when we applied that in reality, the office does flow through, and you've got lots of different zones within that social thread. So you've got collaborative zones, you've got solo working zones. And really that's probably the best example where we've applied neurodiversity to a design. It actually does work, and the clients, the feedback's been great so far. So
it's amazing that he used AI. I mean, I know we've had AI for a few years, but like this was a couple of years ago or a year ago.
It's about 12 months ago. Yeah.
And that kind of mapped the journey visually, or
it was proof of concept. So it was more we were showing. We were using this social thread and the social nodes, and just putting that through the model basically to say, like, if we introduced an extra one here or one there, how would that affect the interactions throughout the day? It was quite a lot of work to actually set the programming up, for want of a better description, of the AI, so it understood what we were doing. But once we had it all set up, it was quite easy then to change the parameters to see what the outcome was. It was interesting.
That's well interesting.
Yeah,
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
You could just get you go crazy with that.
Yeah.
It's quite a useful tool, just widespread, not just that project, but
definitely. It's something that we're working on all the time. Actually, just improving that. I mean, a lot of AI is again a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but it's not. We don't want to pay lip service to it. We'd only use it if it was useful. But in that instance, it was really useful. To at least give us some sort of proof of concept.
Yeah,
it's very hard to get that proof of concept just from analysing a floor plan. There's so many different variants that can affect the outcome of those sort of social interactions.
No, I do agree. AI has got its place. I mean, you don't want to be doing it for the heck of it, but at the same time, I do think it is how things are going to go, and we're going to start to integrate it more, and we're going to start to use it more. I'm not scared of it. I think it's a bit like Yellow Pages going to Google, and now just Google going to AI. It's kind of just a natural transition.
Yeah, 100%.
It will change how we interact and work. But
it's the biggest change of recent years, I think, in terms of technology and that leap forward.
Yeah, it will definitely change how we work, but there's nothing to be scared of. It's more just embracing it, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you try and identify what its uses are and harness it, for want of a better description, that's what we tried to do with that project.
No, good. That sounds. I'd love to see that model. Sounds exciting. And what you're moving on to, like, from the terms of dreams of the future, Matt, like, have you got you've already worked on Disney, and you're working on some big brands already, so I don't know, is there anything beyond, or have you?
I think one of the things that we're looking to do more of at the moment is this kind of account-based work, which is, so D&B is very much transactional. There's a lot of people chasing a project, and someone wins it and people lose it, something delivers it, and then the client sits there 5-10 years, and then maybe they move, and then the whole process starts again. But the teams are very much moving from one project to another. What we like to do at AIS is try and retain accounts. So we'd like to work with companies where they've got multiple sites, big global companies, but also smaller startups where they've got teams based in different locations. And I think with our geographic spread, certainly across Europe, we're not really restricted to anywhere. We've just done projects in Dubai. We're looking at one in Sydney at the moment. So we're looking to work further afield. And I think with the furniture side of it, I think we have these clients that have ongoing requirements for furniture. And when you're working on a pitch, and then you're awarded the project, and then you get that design development phase where you've got a lot of face time with the client, you get to know the client really well. You get to have a very good understanding of what they want, both in terms of quality, but also in terms of function. You get to understand their business, what their aspirations are. You get to understand their people, their employees. So from our point of view, that information is so valuable, and it takes up so much of the client's time to share that information, that why would they then want to go and do that again? So in theory, it's a lot easier for them to work with us in the future if we understand what they want, and that's really what we're trying to grow. So there's not one particular dream project. I guess in an ideal scenario, I'd like to have multiple accounts that have ongoing requirements and maintain these relationships with the client that we can then just keep helping them moving forward. And we've already got a number of clients that we work with in that way, but it would be really nice to see that side of things grow, and like I say, be less transactional.
Yeah, I do agree, because a lot goes into a brand.
Yeah.
I know just for myself in my own like tiny little world, but to impart that onto somebody, and for them to fully grasp that, it's a really big deal. Yeah. And then if you're to keep changing that for every project or every location, you'll quite quickly get different cultures and different solutions in different locations, and the brand isn't necessarily cohesive. Or
that's it. And it could be something as simple as just agreeing, like we have a lot of clients now that, like everybody, they're using phone booths and meeting pods because they're flexible, and also they offer people what they want if they want to go and do a quick VC during the day or whatever. We're working with one client at the moment where they like this particular brand of product, and they've got offices throughout the globe, and they're saying to me, it's really annoying, so every time we want it for another office, we have to find a local dealer, we have to agree the pricing. I was like, well, you don't have to work in that way. What we can do, we can introduce you to the supplier, we can have that conversation, we can set up a global price agreement, we can be your dealer in the UK, we can be your dealer in Europe, less so in the States. Most manufacturers like to split it. They don't give every region to one dealer. So it may be that we introduce them to another dealer in the States and maybe another one in Asia. But we can agree that price across all regions, and we can provide it in multiple currencies. So your teams in region know exactly how much one of these is going to cost, and every time they want it, they can come to us at AIS, and we can just quickly provide a quote. We can deal with the delivery, we can deal with the logistics, and you can have that delivered within 4 to 5 weeks. And it's that kind of service that we're trying to offer to clients, and I think it's quite a key thing, really. It's in the grand scheme of things, it's quite minor, just buying a phone booth. But if you think about how many hours could go into digging all of that information out, and we can just help them set it up, and then it's just saves them time every time they want to re-procure. And I think it's things like that we're trying to push, really.
Mm-hmm. And has the industry got an appetite for that in terms of like those big accounts? Are they, but do they feel? I mean, I'm not a big account, but say would I get worried that I'm going to lose the competitive edge, for example?
I don't think so, because more often than not, if you're securing a global price agreement with the supplier, it's because you are looking to buy quantity. And I think the alternative is that if you leave it down to your local teams, they could procure different products. So you lose that standardization. So it enables the sort of senior people within the business say, this is the product we want. This is the price you can expect to pay. So they're almost providing a catalogue to their facilities teams worldwide. So no, I think you don't really lose an edge. If anything, you're procuring better because you're getting better rates because you're buying in bulk, albeit over a 12-month period or 24-month period. So I think providing you're happy with the product. The other thing it offers as well is if you've got employees that travel from office to office, they instantly feel at home when they're in the other office because everything works the same. It's the same product, same tech. It's similar to if you've got one office running Teams and another running Zoom. You don't want to get in there and think, how am I going to work this AV in this meeting room? Everything should be consistent. And when we're working on accounts like that it's just the little things like that consistency that just enable more productivity, but also employees just feel more at home when they're travelling as well.
Yeah. Firstly, thanks about the commercial bit.
Yeah.
I think that's a great answer.
Yeah.
I think that's a really powerful message to global account, multi-location accounts, because I think that is a really strong point. It can often be thought of, if you're going out to tender constantly, that is cheaper, but because you feel like you're always getting a fresh new deal. But actually factoring in the time and the energy to do that in the first place, and secondly, from a more strategic overview perspective, getting that price locked in, what that then enables, just sheerly from a cost perspective, but also from like time perspective, I think that's a really strong proposition for them. But no, that's great. But then back onto consistency, I think you also get like different locations have got different. London always have it nice, or like Milan always have X, Y, Z. You can sort of create more of a level experience for people, which feels more, I don't know, fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that also spans into different areas as well. Like a lot of the feedback we're getting from clients now, that's been workplace in the past. You'd always have an elevated visitor experience. So your meeting rooms might be or external meeting rooms might be a higher spec to your internal meeting rooms, for example. And I think there's more focus placed on your employees now. So this project we're working on in Canary Wharf, one of the things the client was really insistent on was they didn't want a difference in spec. So to them, their employees are the most important thing. So they should have the same standard for their internal meetings as you would do for an external meeting. So I'm seeing a lot more of this kind of level playing field across everything, and that in turn spans to different sites as well. I think the days of having a nicer spec for the C-suite and here, and then a lower spec there, that's definitely shifting. And I think by working with companies like ourselves, where we can offer that account-based experience is that you can procure better. So you can up the spec of the regional offices because you're buying in bulk, and we can secure those prices over a period of time. So it's definitely got its advantages.
Yeah, I'm seeing that flip. I think we spoke about it probably on a previous episode or somewhere along the line anyway, but that the CEO's office and all the C-suite would all be sat around the outside of the building with beautiful views of the river or whatever it is, and then all of the internal teams are in the middle with no access to natural daylight. For these offices, a majority of the time are empty anyway,
exactly,
outside, and now it's kind of flipped, and the meeting rooms are in the core, and like the I don't know the right word for it, workstations, let's go with that, everyday working is like, again, it's a perimeter, and so people have got access to that natural light from health, and which is a great move, and how it should be, right?
100%, especially if you're, I mean, a lot of companies are trying to get people back into the office. I think they do see the value in that, hence the Tide project when I mentioned earlier, they're looking to increase the interactions. And I think part of that, you can't really say to someone, come into the office, but you're going to be working in that dark corner, and then they see, as you say, all the nice space empty and vacant. I mean, that even is expanding a bit further. Some of the clients we work with, we do put in executive offices, but they are bookable spaces. So when they're not in, someone can book them to work within them. I suppose the challenge there becomes sometimes within the furniture, because we need to provide furniture where the exec can leave their belongings there, but they're secure or not necessarily all over the place for when someone else uses the office. So actually seeing quite a big move back into work wall based systems, which is work wall. It's like your traditional corporate exec office where it'd have the wall would have like a modular system, shelving, some sort of attachments for drawers and cupboards, and a desk. I think that went away for a while, and people tended to put desks in the middle of the space, and they'd be a bit more sparse, I guess. But we're moving more. A lot of the projects we're doing at the moment are moving more back into that work wall, where the furniture feels more part of the built environment rather than just something that's placed inside a room.
What, like a joinery piece?
Yeah, almost. Yeah. So it's it's kind of like a halfway house. So it's a flexible system. They can move it, and if the office was to be relocated, they can take it with them. So it's not quite as fixed as joinery would be. But I suppose the advantage of that is it comes with lots of different purpose-built storage solutions that you can use to allow people to leave personal belongings, but then lock the cupboard when they leave, and then someone else can use their desk during the day, that type of thing.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that was really. I didn't really know that kind of C-suite thing was. I thought that was kind of leaving behind.
Yeah, we still do a bit of it. I think it very much depends on the nature of the company. I mean, there's definitely a lot less than it used to be. But yeah, I think certain work environments require it. So, for example, law firms, they do typically need an office for that partner level person. Because of the nature of their work, it's quite private, it's quite confidential. So they do like to work in isolation. But less so in other companies. More often than not, you're seeing the C-suite sat in the open plan with the, with all the other employees as well. So
yeah, I do get that. As I was saying, I was even thinking that there is a law project I'm on, and it does. Yeah, all the doors needs to be lockable. And, even just for general, it's not even in the main area, like not just in the C-suite, but everywhere has to be lockable. So only certain people have got access to things. So. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
I mean, the nature of that type of work can't fully change. So it's the spaces adapt a little bit. But we did an office for a law firm last year, and we had to put in a load of roller racking, which is something that you don't often see on projects. But obviously, being a law firm, they have to, by law, store a lot of paperwork, and that needs to be done in a space-effective way. So roller racking is perfect for that. So it's the old-fashioned file system where you kind of slide a whole wall and you can go in and little concertinas together. Well, it's on tracks and it's built into the floor space. I mean, that was a bit of that was part of the furniture package on that project, and that was a bit of a learning for us because the sheer weight of that thing was crazy. So we had to reinforce the floor and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's something I didn't think I'd see too much of
these days. But yeah, there's still a need for it. So
it's coming. Yeah, that is fair enough. I think that was literally someone was talking to me about that, about the rails at like literally almost train lines.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. And Matt, before we close off, I just wonder if there are any lessons that you've got from your career, because you've clearly like come a long way in the whole furniture piece with the airports and that type of thing, and then you've kind of transitioned into D&B and you've opened up a new world. But I feel like you've had a really great exposure beyond just D&B, which is really exciting, from making global and now here in the workplace. What would your message be to the audience? We have a lot of people that might be aspiring to be in your role. What would your message be to them?
I think you just got to get into the industry. You learn far more on the job than you do elsewhere. And there's so many different angles you can get into the furniture industry from. Obviously, we've got project managers that come from a project management background. That could be of any type, really. Furniture consultants is one of the roles that a lot of people like doing. It's quite a creative role. I think the best training for that role is on the job. As long as you've got a good understanding of design, a good understanding of quality, you can identify which suppliers will offer the best service. You'll be fine with that, and you just need to get in at the bottom and work your way up. So, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time, Matt. It's been brilliant insight. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on.